Hi, in this video I'm going to use Microsoft Agent Framework in C# in order to show you how to get your first agent in Azure OpenAI. So we're going from no resources and no code to your first agent calling the LLM. So let's get into it. And what I have here is Visual Studio, where I have an empty console app and a few steps that we need to follow in order to have this up and running. So let's go into the first step, and that is to create our Azure resource. I already have an Azure account, so that's assumed here, but we are going to use or create a new Azure AI Foundry. So I'm in here in ai.azure.com. You can use the normal portal as well, but this tends to be easier. And I'm going to create a new one here. And I'm going to create an Azure AI Foundry resource. You can also do in Microsoft Agent Framework AI Foundry agents, but in this case we are just going to use the raw OpenAI, and Azure AI Foundry resource can do both of them. You can also make a dedicated resource called Azure OpenAI if you want to, but that's kind of a legacy compared to this one. So let's do this, and let's call the project demo. And we need to give the resource a name, so I will just call it RWJ AF. I'm going to put this into a resource group called AI, and I'm going to use Central Sweden. Central Sweden and US East is the places where the newest model comes first, so I tend to use those two regions, but you can use whatever, but might have a more limited amount of LLMs at your availability. But let's make this. This is going to take a little while, so we will actually switch over and prepare some code while we wait for this. So at some point we will get an endpoint, an API key, and a model. But until those are ready, we are going to add some NuGet packages. So we need two NuGet packages to use this: the raw connection to Azure and the agent framework. So if we look at the first package, and in general, all packages right now in this is pre-release as of this recording, but they might be out of betas and stuff when you see this. But the first one is this one that has been around for a long time, and we are gonna install that one. And the second one we need is the Microsoft Agent Framework, and we're gonna use the OpenAI NuGet package of it, so we have the extension methods that can connect through to this. So we're going to search for that, and we're going to install that as well. So now we have our two packages. Let's quickly have a look over here. Our demo is ready. Now I'm going to do something that you should absolutely not do, and that is reveal this API key. I'm going to do it because I will have deleted this resource once you see this video, so it's not unsafe for me to do, but of course you shouldn't do that in real life. And you can even not use API keys, but use the default Azure credentials instead. In order to do this, then you would need one further NuGet package, Azure Identity. But in our case, we're just going to show the API key here, and do even worse, put it directly in code. Of course, you should use some key vaults or user secrets or environment variables in order to do this. But for the demo, it's better for you to see the kind of length of the API and things, and not just tuck it away. So that's why I'm doing this. In terms of endpoint, we are not using AI Foundry, so it's not the AI Foundry endpoint, but the OpenAI endpoint. Again, there will be a different video on the Azure OpenAI Foundry. But this is a more basic version of working with agents. We also need a model, and in order to do that, we again need to go in here, and we're gonna go down here to models and endpoints and say we want a new model. The framework can use all of the models, but I'm just gonna choose randomly here a ChatGPT 5 mini, so we don't need to wait too long for thinking and stuff. So I'm gonna grab that name and paste it in here. There we go. So that is actually step 1 and step 2, and we are ready to begin coding. And the first thing we need to do is we need to take something from Azure AI.openai, and that is a Azure OpenAI client. And the client we need to new up and give it a URI, which is our endpoint, and our key. But if we had the Azure identity, and we could also have used the default keys, use the Azure CLI in order to authenticate and then be up and running. But that's like any other Azure resource, so I won't go into how to do that in this video. I'm just going to use the API key, and we have our client. The client itself needs to give us a chat client because we want this basic model. Later we can use more advanced stuff, but we just want our model. And here we could then use the raw Azure OpenAI, but because we want the agent, we want to say create AI agents. In doing that, we will get an agent. And on purpose, I won't go into more details that you can put a lot of extra things in here. You can do a lot of extra response back and so on. That will be separate videos in this video series. The agent itself, we can now say run async, meaning ask it a question. And the question could be, what is the capital of France? And that is an async, so we're gonna await it, and we are gonna get a response back. And that response, we simply just need to say console.writeLine, and it has a to-do to string, so it will just use the text of the response, but there's lots of other things in the response when we need that. Again, separate videos on that. And that should be it. We should be able to now run the code and get a pop-up here, and we get back that the capital of France is Paris. So with 1, 2, 3 lines of code and a bit of configuration, we have gotten from 0 to our first agent. We can also do streaming instead of just getting the answer back. That would be agent.run streaming async and ask our question. Let's ask what is the capital of, no, that's actually because it's a longer answer. Let's say how to make soup. So it gets a little more longer answer. We need to iterate this over for each, and we get an update back, meaning that every character more or less comes back one at a time of every word. And we simply just need to say console.write with the update, and we should be ready to go. So let's run it again. And it should come back how to make soup in a streaming manner once it's done thinking. So it's streaming our results back to us, and everything is up and running. So that's how easy it is to get started. Make your resource, add 2 NuGet packages, write 3 lines of code, and you're ready to go. So with that, this was the introduction. See you in the more advanced videos.